A ridge of grey stone rises out of the Riverlands, and a king's hand stands at the foot of it, looking up at his own death. 3,000 men behind him, footsore, fevered, starving, dragonless, and on the high ground above, 8,000 more. Under the banners of the queen he made war upon. Longbowmen, ragged spearmen, and a wall of grey northern axes. A squire beside him asks the only question left. Who are they? The hand does not answer. He is Ser Criston Cole, the Kingmaker, the man who set a crown on Aegon's head, the finest sword and lance of his age. He calls for parley. He offers to die if his men may live. They refuse him, and so the greatest knight of the realm, denied even an honest death, lifts his voice to challenge 3 men at once. The archers raise their bows. Welcome to Westeros within, where the fires of history still burn. This is House of the Dragon, the true history. Chapter 5, The Realm Aflame. This is the year the war came down out of the sky and into the mud, when the Riverlands burned, and the man who made a king died beneath a stranger's arrow. We left the last chapter beneath the waves. At the Battle of the Gullet, off Driftmark, Prince Jacaerys Velaryon, Rhaenyra's heir, her eldest living son, was shot from his dragon's back and drowned in the cold green sea. Another son lost, another wound that would never close. But the war was no longer a thing of ships and dragons alone. It was the year 130 after the conquest, and the killing ground was moving inland, to the rivers, the fields, the small burning villages of the realm's green heart. To understand the fire that was coming, see first how broken both crowns had become. King Aegon II was a ruin. At Rook's Rest the year before, his own hand had sprung a trap that worked. Princess Rhaenys and her Melees fell from the sky and died. But the cost was monstrous. Aegon's golden sunfire was crippled and grounded, and the king himself burned so badly he could neither stand nor rule. Hidden away in a long convalescence, his very survival whispered behind locked doors. So the green cause split in two. Prince Aemond One-Eye, took up the regency. Picture him, pale and lean and hard, silver gold hair, and where his left eye had been, a sapphire glittered cold in the empty socket. Proud, vengeful, the most dangerous of all his mother's sons. And beneath him, the thing no black dragon dared to face, Vhagar, the she-dragon who once flew with Visenya in the conquest, grown monstrous with a century of war. The largest, oldest, most terrible living creature in the world. Aemond held the sky. The ground he gave to his brother's hand, to Ser Criston Cole. While the Greens nursed their broken king, the Blacks struck for the Riverlands' great prize. Prince Daemon Targaryen, on Caraxes, the blood worm, dark sister at his hip, descended on Harrenhal, the largest castle in Westeros, Black Heron's cursed monument on the shore of the God's Eye. He landed atop the Kingspire Tower, the very tower where Harren and his sons had burned. And the Castellan, Simon Strong, looked up at the dragon and struck his banners without a sword drawn. Aemond and Criston Cole marched out from King's Landing to crush him. And here is the bitter joke of it. While the Greens marched off to fight for an empty castle, King's Landing fell behind them. Rhaenyra took the capital, took the Iron Throne. The Greens had abandoned the city to chase a ghost and lost their crown's own seat in the doing. And the ghost? Daemon never gave them their battle. He flew up and away and vanished, leaving Aemond the empty stones to capture. It was bait, laid by the cleverest, cruelest prince of the age, a trap we will see snap shut in a chapter still to come. But Harrenhal could not be held. So at its blackened gates, the two halves of the Green War made the choice that doomed them both. Aemond and Criston Cole disagreed and parted. Aemond took Vhagar alone into the sky to make the Riverlands burn, and Criston Cole took the host on foot, south, through hostile country, with no dragon overhead. The most fearsome weapon in the world had flown off to feed Aemond's pride, and left the hand of the king to march the killing fields on his own. Denied his duel with Daemon, the one-eyed prince turned his dragon loose on the land itself. This was not a battle plan. It was punishment. The river lords had declared for Rhaenyra, so Aemond would burn the country that fed them until they broke and begged their queen to call her dragons home. It began at House Darry, swallowed whole in a firestorm in the dark. Lord Darry and his heir died together on the battlements. His lady and her children lived only because they fled to the vaults. Some 60 sworn swords burned with the walls. 3 days later, Lord Harroway's town lay smoking, and it never stopped. Lord's Mill, Blackbuckle, Claypool, Swinford, Spiderwood, town after town, until half the Riverlands seemed ablaze, and at a place called Merrydown Dell, 30 men and 300 sheep dead in a single sweep of dragonflame. 30 men, 300 sheep. That is the texture of this war. Not lords and crowns, but shepherds and granaries burning before the harvest, and the shadow of the oldest dragon in the world sliding across villages that had no part in any of it. The river lords sent frantic ravens, Mouton, Darklin, Blackwood, begging their queen for a dragon to shield them. And Aemond's terror worked exactly as intended. It gnawed at Rhaenyra's heart. But the histories judge him plainly. A man more in love with cruelty than strategy. Vhagar's fire could not win the war. It could only make certain that when the Greens finally fell into the River Lord's hands, no mercy would be left to give them. And the river country had old hatreds of its own. For 1,000 years, House Bracken and House Blackwood had loathed one another, and the war handed them their excuse. The Blackwoods for Rhaenyra, the Brackens for Aegon. They met at the Battle of the Burning Mill, where Sir Amos Bracken cut down Lord Samwell Blackwood in single combat, only to take a weirwood arrow through the eye slit of his helm an instant later. Loosed, the Blackwoods say, by Black Ailey, Samwell's sister, the deadliest archer in her house. Remember the Riverland bow. Its arrows are about to find a far greater target. For Criston Cole, marching south, there was a plan, and a sound one. A great host of the Westerlands, the proud lions of Casterly Rock, was marching east to join him. But he did not know they were already dying. That host had lost its head 3 times over. First, at the battle at the Red Fork, their lord Jason Lannister was struck down by a common squire named Pate of Longleaf. For that deed, Lord Pater Piper knighted him on the spot, and the realm gave him a new name, Longleaf the Lion Slayer. Mark it well. We will hear it again at the end. Command passed to Sir Adrian Tarbeck, slain in turn, and it fell, at last, to old Lord Humphrey Lefford, crippled, cautious, aged, every infirmity making the army crawl toward the Greens. A tired host, far from home, on its 3rd leader in as many battles, dragged toward a death trap by a wounded old man. This was the army Criston Cole marched to meet. They never reached him. On the western shore of the God's Eye, that vast, misty lake, the Isle of Faces a gray smudge on the horizon, Lefford's Westermen found the noose already drawn. Rivermen and Northmen had pinned them against the water. There was Lord Roderick Dustin of Barrowton, Roddy the Ruin, old and white-bearded, leading 2,000 winter wolves. Northmen, everyone mounted, who by ancient custom rode south in winter not to win, but to die well, and spare their grain for the young. With him, Lord Forest Frey, Red Rob Rivers, with 300 bowmen out of Raventree Hall, Pate of Longleaf, the Lion Slayer, and Sir Garibald Grey, and a boy lord blooded into legend that day, Benjicot Blackwood. Bloody Ben! The Winter Wolves demanded the honor of the first charge. They were granted it, and they charged the Lannister spears 5 times. Struck from 3 sides at once, the Westermen were driven back foot by foot into the reeds and shallows. Hundreds were cut down in the rushes. Hundreds more drowned, fleeing into deep water in their heavy steel. By nightfall, 2,000 men lay dead. So many corpses choked the Lakeshore that the men who lived gave the battle its own grim name. In the Citadel's careful annals, it is the battle by the Lakeshore. But to the soldiers who waded through it, it was only ever one thing: the Fishfeed, because the fish fed on the dead. A victory for the blacks. But oh, what a price. More than 2/3 of the Winter Wolves were killed or wounded. The old men got the glorious death they had ridden south to find. Even Lord Forest Frey fell, a black lord dead on the winning side, so savage was the day. And the Greens lost everything. Old Humphrey Lefford, Lords Swift and Rain, Sir Clarent Crakehall, Sir Emery Hill, the bastard of Lannisport. The flower of the Westerlands chivalry cut down in a single day. The proud lions of the rock broken as a fighting force. And Ser Criston Cole was marching south to be reinforced by that very host, marching toward an army that was already feeding the fish. So now we come to the ridge. Cole led his Greens out of Harrenhal, perhaps 3,600 men, south on foot toward the Blackwater, hoping to join a host that no longer existed. The River Lords did not give him battle. They gave him something far worse: the long death. They burned their own forests and fields to leave him no food, marching him through the same ash Vhagar had made. They fouled the wells. Marsh fever tore through his column. Men deserted in the dark, and the Riverlanders harried him from every side. His host shrank and starved and stumbled with every mile. Then he struck overland for the Blackwater and found the Lords of the Trident waiting. The victors of the Fishfeed, massed atop a stony ridge beneath Rhaenyra's banners. The same host that had drowned the lions, now hunting the hand. Look at what stood on that high ground against his ragged, dragonless men. 300 mounted knights, 300 longbowmen, 3,000 archers, 3,000 rivermen with spears, and hundreds of winter wolves with axes and mauls and ancient iron swords. Outnumbered, roughly 2 to 1. No dragon, no high ground, no escape. And it is here the squire turned to his hand and asked, "Who are they?" Cole called for parley. He rode up beneath the ridge to face the 3 black commanders: Sir Garibald Grey, Pate of Longleaf, the Lion Slayer, and Old Roddy the Ruin himself. And the Kingmaker, the proudest knight in Westeros, offered to surrender on one condition: that his men be spared. They refused him. So Criston Cole did the last thing a knight of his pride had left to do. He challenged all 3 of them at once, 1 man against 3, to the death. And Pate of Longleaf, the common-born lion slayer, looked down at the greatest knight of the age and answered that he would have more than one of him. He gave a word, and Red Rob Rivers raised his longbows. There was no duel. 3 common arrows took Ser Criston Cole, 1 in the belly, 1 in the neck, 1 through the breast, and the Kingmaker, the finest sword and lance of his age, fell dead in the mud at the foot of a stranger's ridge. No champion's blade, no song. The greatest knight of the realm, brought down by 3 base-born longbows. In the dirt. Did the Kingmaker mean to die there? The book does not say. It gives us his actions, never his mind. Defiance, despair, or simple knightly pride. We are left to wonder. He asked for his men's lives, was refused, and chose to fall on his feet. And with him fallen, Roddy the Ruin sounded the charge. The winter wolves and river knights poured down off the ridge into the leaderless green host, and the slaughter that followed was no battle at all. Afterward, Sir Garibald Grey looked at the field and said it had been butchery, not battle. And the fool, Mushroom, who was there, or claimed he was, heard those words, and gave the day its name, the Butcher's Ball. The Butcher's Ball was the high tide of Rhaenyra's fortunes. Criston Cole was the Green's most capable commander, the man who had made their war, and nearly won it. With him dead in the mud, and the western host fed to the fish, the Green cause on the ground simply collapsed. What the Greens still held was the sky, Vhagar, vast and unkillable, and Aemond One-Eye riding her, burning the Riverlands raw. Terror without victory. But the war was not done with its surprises. As the smoke cleared over that ridge, 2 riders set out to the south, Garibald Grey and Pate of Longleaf, carrying a trophy on a spear, the severed head of the Kingmaker. They were riding for a rich, walled town on the road to King's Landing, a town the Green Army would soon try to take. A place where 2 dragon riders of doubtful blood would commit the worst betrayal of the entire dance. A place called Tumbleton. That is where we go next. I am Westeros within. If these forgotten fires move you, if you want to walk the whole of this war with me, chapter by chapter, to its bitter end, then follow along and subscribe. The history is far from over, and the fires are only spreading.